You see, you clicked on this video for one reason and one reason only. There are millions of other videos out there that you could have chosen to watch. Instead, you chose to click on this video specifically. It's because you want to get to $10,000 a month and you want a step-by-step process laid out in front of you so that you can just follow it and execute on it ruthlessly every day. In this video, I'm going to share with you the full step-by-step guide that will allow you to reach $10,000 a month much faster than any of your competitors. I can guarantee that if you apply the steps in this guide, you'll be making more money this year than in the previous year. But who am I to make this video? I personally went from being broke and depressed just a couple years ago to now running a profitable online business and having the time of my life while doing so. So by all means, if you don't care about making $10,000 a month, feel free to click off this video and go watch something else. Otherwise, if you truly want to make a profound, long-lasting change in your life, then grab a notebook and a pen or open up a Notion tab on your browser and pay close attention to what we are about to cover. Step 1. Why $10,000 a month? Plenty of people come to me and tell me that they want to make $10,000 a month. Some people want to be able to travel the world, to live the laptop lifestyle, while other people just want to have a nice income and provide for their family. But the bottom line is this: why do you aim for $10,000 instead of, let's say, $20,000 or even, let's say, $2,000 a month? Why do you want to make $10,000 a month specifically? Now I know it might sound cliche or woo-woo, or it's just some mindset stuff, but honestly, we can't start this guide without asking why you want to make that money in the first place. Because I can tell you one thing right now: in the past, I used to set big goals, but I would never actually achieve them or make any tangible progress. Why? Because my why, my reason for doing things, was shaky. It wasn't strong enough to compel me to take action on a daily basis, and especially to put in the hard work when I least felt like doing it. Because trust me, there are going to be plenty of moments you're going to feel like anything but doing some work. But what separates the winners from everyday people or from losers, it's that winners are willing to do what most people are simply not willing to do. They're going to work when everyone else is, let's say, playing, watching TV. They are going to make the necessary sacrifices. You need to have strong foundations. It's kind of like if you're trying to build a beautiful home. If you have weak foundations, everything that you build on top, no matter how magnificent, is just going to fall apart. And now you've built this beautiful home for nothing. Now it's a ruin. That is why you want to lay very solid foundations right from the start. When you are trying to go too fast, you are often going to make mistakes that you'll need to go back, slow down, and correct them. Instead, if you took the time to do things properly, you would be moving much faster. That's the irony. Now it's okay if you want to make more money simply to be able to afford nicer things, a better quality of life. Like maybe you just want the fancy cars, the fancy houses, the vacations. But I'll tell you this: after a certain point, you will get used to having this life, to having those things. It's going to become your new norm. It's not going to be as exciting as at first. I know it sounds cliche for me to say this right now, because if you're watching this video, then you are not making $10,000 a month with your business, and you think that if you were making that amount, all of your problems would be solved and you'd be incredibly happy. But that simply isn't true. Billionaires still have problems, and in fact, they have way more problems than the average person because they have so many responsibilities. Now don't get me wrong, going from $0 to $10,000 a month, it's probably one of the most life-changing transformations you'll ever go through in your entire life. Because not only will it change your life, but it will also change you. You'll become such a stronger, better, wiser version of yourself in the process. Bottom line, make sure that you know exactly why you want to get to $10,000 a month. Is it because you want to be free? Is it because when you were growing up you suffered from lack of money and you never want to be put in that position ever again, or you don't want to put your future family in that position? Is your goal to retire your parents or to buy a beautiful home for your family? Whatever it is, you need to be crystal clear about what you want. Now the things that you want, they may evolve over time, but you need to lay that foundation, whatever it may be. Step 2. Understand how money works. In plenty of movies and in popular media, rich people are vilified. They're meant to appear as those evil creatures. They had to do bad things to earn that money. And money is usually something that most people don't even dare to speak about. If you go in the street, you ask a random stranger how much money they make, they'll react as if you had asked them to pull down their pants. In reality, in nature, nothing is good or bad. Things are simply as they are. It's human beings who label things as good or bad, who put a judgment onto things. And the best proof of that is that depending on the culture you're in, what is going to be considered right or wrong is going to be vastly different. That is why our beliefs greatly influence the way that we see reality. To give you an example, if you believe that you can't become successful in business, no matter what you do, because you're just unlucky, life is against you, or you just have bad circumstances, then trust me, you'll never become successful. Why? Because you're not even going to start a business. Or if you do, you'll do things halfway. You'll find a way to self-sabotage because it's always going to be in alignment with your beliefs. On the other hand, if you believe that you deserve a better life for yourself and for your loved ones, you'll do whatever the hell it takes to become successful because you believe that you deserve more, that it's your birthright. So naturally, you'll put in the work as opposed to if you simply believed you couldn't do it for whatever reason. And if you look at things from an objective objective point of view, you'll see that money is simply a tool that we use collectively as a society to measure exchanges in value. Back then, people had to trade things because the concept of money didn't even exist. Money is extremely practical. Imagine having to go to the supermarket and have to trade your coat for a bag of fruits and vegetables. Money derives from value. Therefore, the more value you provide, the more people you impact in a positive way, the more money you'll make. That is why somebody who just spends all day playing video games, they're not making any money. It's because they're not providing any value to other people. They're being selfish. Step 3. Become a producer. You have to understand that producers make money while consumers spend money. Now, we all do both to some degree. We all are consumers and producers, but most people consume way more than they produce, and that is why they make a lot less money than they would like. 80% of your time should be spent producing or consuming things which will make you a better producer. And when you do consume, make sure you're not just mindlessly consuming things that are not going to help your life in any way. Step 4. Work hours are completely irrelevant. I see plenty of young entrepreneurs making this mistake. They think that if they work more hours, if they work 10 to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, hell, sometimes even 7 days a week, they'll make more money. They'll automatically become more successful. This couldn't be further from the truth. It's about providing value to people, giving the market what it wants. Nobody cares how many hours a day you work or how hard you work. When you're in school, you complete a test. The teacher doesn't care if you didn't have to study. The teacher also doesn't care if you studied 30 hours for that test. If you got a bad grade, all of that doesn't matter. Another proof of this is, do you care how long it took me to create this guide? No, the thought didn't even cross your mind because to you it is completely irrelevant. The other thing that you need to understand is that you can do in 2 to 4 hours a day what it takes most people 8 hours a day to do. The key is to do deep, intense, focused work. And to do that, you need to remove all distractions. Make sure your desk is clutter-free, because if you've got your phone right next to your laptop, for instance, you'll be tempted to use it because it will always give you much bigger hits of dopamine than doing the boring work. So put your phone aside, put on some headphones, close the door and the windows, listen to binaural beats, set a timer for 45 minutes and do the work. You'll be amazed at how much you can achieve in such a short amount of time. Step 5. Making the right choice. I genuinely believe that all of the small, seemingly insignificant choices that we make every day in our lives actually have a tremendous impact on the long term. It might not seem that bad to miss one workout session today, but before you know it, 1 leads to 2, 2 leads to 3, and now, instead of working out daily like you said you would, you're only exercising once or 2 times a week. Truth is, most people fail to realize how their daily choices compound over the long term. You could reach out to one potential customer right now. It's not going to do anything for you 5 years from now. You could decide to eat unhealthy food for the entire day. It's not going to do anything to you. However, over 5 years, those actions will have massive consequences, either positive or negative, depending on what you did. That is why you need to make the right choice when it comes to which money-making opportunity you are working with. To get to $10,000 a month, you have 3 possible paths. The slow route, which is to get a 9-to-5 job, a regular career, to slowly climb the corporate ladder decade after decade, to work slave-like hours in hopes that maybe one day you will reach the C-suite level. You'll be a CEO, COO, CFO and make 6 figures a year. The downside is that you'll be working 90 hours a week. You'll have no freedom. So not only is it a very difficult path, it's very competitive, but it is also not nearly as rewarding as the other paths. Now your other path is to become a commission-based sales rep. You could make more money because your income is more tied to your performance as opposed to being tied to how many hours you spend working every day. However, since you're still trading your time for money, you are very quickly going to hit the ceiling. It's going to be difficult to make more than $15,000 to $20,000 a month as a commission-based sales rep. And the third path, it's the path that I personally decided to follow. It was to start my own online business. It's with this path that you can separate how many hours you work from how much money you make. That is the true key to unlocking insane levels of wealth and of freedom. Step 6. Understand the key differences between starting a brick-and-mortar business and an online business. For 99.9% of people, starting an online business is going to be a much better option than starting a traditional brick-and-mortar business like a restaurant, a gym, or a hair salon. Why? Because if you want to open up a brick-and-mortar business, you would need to get massively in debt to come up with at least $50,000 for a small town to $200,000 for a bigger town. Not to mention that there are many monthly recurring costs as well, like staff, rent, equipment, taxes. So if you can't make that business successful, now you're massively in debt and you will need to spend your entire life in a dead-end job to make enough money to repay that massive debt. Instead, you could decide to start an online business. If you start a service-based business, the worst case scenario, let's say it's been 6 months, 12 months, you haven't signed a client, you didn't lose more than $50, which is the price for buying a domain name and an email address. It can even be cheaper than that. So compare being $300,000 in debt with having spent $50 and 6 months of your time. Clearly, one path is much riskier and less rewarding than the other. And brick and mortar businesses don't scale the same way that online businesses do. If you want to scale your gym, what can you do? At some point, you can't just sell more memberships. There's going to be way too many people in the gym. And besides, the amount of customers that you can get is directly limited by the amount of people interested in what you have to offer in your local area. So now you need to open up more gyms, get more in debt, spend more money, hire more people. Overall, it's very complicated, but with an online business, scaling is much simpler. At Consulting Fastlane, we help as many entrepreneurs as possible to go from $0 with their business to 6 figures a year. If you're interested in starting your own online business, but you have no clue what to do, I have recorded a free video in which I'm going to analyze every popular online business model. Together, we'll take a look at the pros, at the cons, and I'm also going to share with you for completely free the 3-step process that you can start using today to get your first customers as quickly as possible. The link is in the description below. Step 7. Keep everything lean and mean. In business, when you're just starting out, you don't want to spend money on things which are unnecessary. So if it's not an absolutely necessary expense for your business, why spend money on it? Now I tell people don't be afraid to lose out on profit margins a bit, because as you scale up, it's completely normal that your profit margins are going to be a bit smaller. Ask yourself, would I rather have 10% of $1 billion or 90% of $100,000? As you can see in the first example, profit margins are much smaller. You get to keep less in terms of a percentage, but because the number is much bigger, you get to keep more. Step 8. The specialist myth. People will often tell you in the online space that if you want to make 6 or even 7 figures a year, you need to become a specialist, not a generalist, meaning you become insanely good at one thing and you get paid handsomely for it. That sounds all nice and good in practice. After all, it applies to most jobs. If you're a neurosurgeon, you are going to make way more money than if you are a general practitioner. That is completely true. But you see, in business, it is a bit different. In reality, when you start a business, you'll be a generalist. You'll need to wear many hats. You'll need to understand client acquisition, marketing, sales, finding the right niche, client communication, service delivery, customer support, and many other things. And that's what we help our members do at Consulting Fastlane. Step 9. Understand that you get what you put in. The world doesn't owe you anything, and if you want to obtain results, you need to go out there and to put in the work. Plenty of people seem to think that they're entitled to making 6 figures a year because now they have a diploma from a fancy university. In reality, the world doesn't care about your qualifications, your degree, or what university you went to. It might sound cool in a conversation to say that you graduated from Harvard, but if you sell something to people which they don't want, whether you graduated from one of the best universities in the world, it simply won't matter. People will not buy from you. Understand that people will only buy if it solves a problem or if they see value in what you have to offer. They're not going to buy because you have X or Y qualification. People care about themselves. Business is about the customer, not about you. Step 10. Be patient even if it sucks. You want to celebrate the small wins, otherwise you're going to drive yourself insane. I'm personally never satisfied. I always want to achieve bigger things. So when I get a small success, it's difficult to savor it. Each time I get a customer, I just want the next one. But to give you an example, it took Bare Performance Nutrition 4 years to make $20,000 a year in revenue. But now they're making over $22 million a year. Understand that everything that ends up big started off small. Google, Apple, Amazon, they started off as small companies and now they're literally empires. So don't be afraid to show yourself at your beginnings. We all have to start somewhere. It's kind of like when you're at the gym, you kind of feel bad because let's say you're not lifting that much weight, so your ego takes a toll a bit, but you've got to understand that the strong guy probably had to go through that same stage. He lifted that unimpressive amount of weight first. If you're like me, you always want to accelerate the process. The best way to do that is honestly to follow a step-by-step process made by somebody who's obtained the sort of results that you want to get. I mean, you wouldn't take weight loss advice from a novice personal trainer, would you? And that is exactly why we decided to create Consulting Fastlane. If you want more info, the link is in the description. Now, if you apply the 10 steps we went in great detail to cover, I have no doubt that you will become very successful. As always, I wish you the best, and I'm waiting for you on the other side.